High above the Pacific, a Boeing 777 carved an impossible arc, its radar blip reversing course without a distress call. Air traffic control scrambled, voices tense, but the plane offered no answers. In the darkened business class, a black woman with no name stirred. Her earbuds, a facade, hummed faintly as her eyes snapped open, sharp as a blade. She wasn't here by chance. Her ticket, a ghost in the system, was bought through 3 layers of aliases. She wasn't a passenger, she was a predator, tracking prey. The captain's voice crackled over the intercom, calm, routine. But she knew better. A faint shift in cadence, a word misplaced. Her pulse quickened. The man in the cockpit wasn't the one who'd boarded. 7 hours into the flight, the plane was turning back. Defying orders, defying logic. She adjusted her cuff, a hidden device warming against her skin. Whatever was unfolding at 35,000 feet, she was the only one who saw it coming. And she was ready to tear it apart. The cabin hummed with the monotony of long-haul travel, passengers cocooned in their seats, oblivious to the anomaly unfolding. The woman, known only as Shade, in certain encrypted circles, blended seamlessly into the crowd. Her boarding pass, issued under a fabricated name, had passed every scan, a testament to her meticulous craft. She wasn't here for the in-flight movie or the complimentary champagne. Her target was the man in the captain's seat, or the one pretending to be him. Shade's intel had flagged him weeks ago. A pilot with a spotless record, too perfect, too clean. Now, as the plane veered off course, her suspicion solidified. She reclined her seat, feigning sleep, while her mind raced. The flight manifest, hacked via a micro-device sewn into her sleeve, confirmed her status as a ghost. No record, no trace. But she wasn't alone in her secrecy. The captain's file, cross-referenced during boarding, had a single red flag, a last-minute crew change, buried in paperwork. Shade's fingers brushed the concealed blade in her cuff. If the man flying this plane wasn't Captain Ellis, who was he? And why was the aircraft turning back without clearance? The answers lay ahead, in the cockpit, and she'd carve her way there if needed. The cabin lights dimmed, casting long shadows. Shade's earpiece, disguised as a cheap earbud, picked up faint static from the crew's internal comms. A voice, not the captain's, issued clipped orders. Her lips tightened. The plane's trajectory wasn't a mistake, it was deliberate. She glanced at the seatback screen, 35,000 feet, halfway across the Pacific. No one else noticed the subtle shift in the flight path. Passengers dozed, attendants smiled, but Shade's senses were electric. She'd spent years honing this instinct. Surviving missions where a single misstep meant erasure. Her cover as a tech consultant was ironclad, her luggage unremarkable. But beneath her tailored blazer, a micro-arsenal waited, a pulse jammer, a retractable garrote, and a signal relay no larger than a coin. She wasn't just prepared, she was a weapon. The captain's impostor had no idea what was coming. As the plane droned on, Shade's mind mapped the next move. The cockpit was fortified, but she'd breached worse. First, she needed proof. Slipping a hand into her pocket, she activated a low-frequency scanner. Its hum masked by the engine's roar. If the captain was a fraud, she'd find the crack in his facade before the plane reached its unknown destination. 7 hours into the flight, the captain's voice broke through the cabin speakers again, announcing turbulence. Shade's ear caught it instantly, a slight hesitation, a vowel stretched too long. It wasn't Captain Ellis. She'd studied his voice patterns, his clipped Midwest accent, during her prep. This imposter was good, but not flawless. Her gaze flicked to the cabin crew, their smiles practiced, unaware. Then she saw it, on the in-flight screen, a brief glitch in the flight path display. The plane wasn't just turning, it was deviating toward coordinates unlisted in any commercial route. Shade's pulse steadied, her training kicking in. She unbuckled her seatbelt, moving toward the galley under the pretense of stretching her legs. As she passed the captain's door, she noted his wrist through the open curtain, a pilot's chronograph, worn upside down. A rookie mistake. Ellis, a 20-year veteran, would never wear it that way. The imposter's cover was fraying. Shade slipped into the business-class lavatory, locking the door. From her cuff, she extracted a microjammer, its faint pulse disrupting the crew's comms for a 10-second window. She tuned her earpiece to the cockpit's frequency, catching a heated exchange. A stranger's voice, low and commanding, instructed the co-pilot, "Hold course. No deviations." The co-pilot's reply was tense, almost pleading. Shade's jaw tightened. The plane was turning against orders, and the co-pilot wasn't in on the plan. She needed more. Re-entering the cabin, she scanned the passengers. A man in row 12, sweating despite the cool air, clutched his phone too tightly. A potential accomplice? She memorized his face. Back in her seat, she activated her sleeve scanner, pulling metadata from the plane's internal systems. The flight's black box was transmitting, unusual for mid-flight. Someone was streaming data to an external source. Shade's mind raced. This wasn't just a hijacking, it was a surgical operation. The impostor had allies, and they weren't on the plane. Her next move was riskier. She needed access to the avionics bay, a cramped space beneath the cockpit. Feigning a spill, she flagged a flight attendant, slipping a sedative tab into her own water glass to avoid suspicion. The attendant, distracted, didn't notice Shade's sleight of hand. As the cabin quieted, Shade moved toward the rear. Her steps silent. The galley was empty. She pried open a service panel, revealing a maintenance hatch. Squeezing inside, she navigated the claustrophobic space, her pinlight illuminating wires and circuits. The auxiliary navigation system blinked, confirming her fear. The plane's destination had been reprogrammed. Not the origin airport, but a speck in the Pacific, an uncharted island. Shade's breath caught. She'd seen this before in classified briefs, private airstrips, black site operations. Whoever was behind this had resources beyond a single rogue pilot. She planted a tracker on the system, its signal piggybacking on the plane's own comms. If she didn't make it out, someone would know where this flight was headed. The plane's hum masked the tension coiling in Shade's chest. The avionics bay had confirmed her worst suspicions. This flight was a pawn in a larger game. Back in her seat, she blended into the cabin's rhythm, her face a mask of boredom. But her mind was a storm. The island destination wasn't random. It matched coordinates from a failed op in Frankfurt 6 years ago, a mission that cost her team everything. The scar-faced man she'd chased then was linked to a shadow network, one that traded in secrets and blood. Was he the impostor in the cockpit? She needed to know. Slipping into the crew's restroom, she deployed her pulse jammer again, this time hacking the internal comms. The stranger's voice crackled through. Maintain silence. No contact until we're over the drop zone. Drop zone? Her blood chilled. This wasn't just a reroute, it was a delivery. Shade's eyes scanned the cabin. The sweating man in row 12 was gone. She cursed silently. He'd moved while she was below. She needed to act fast. Feigning a headache, she requested a drink from a male flight attendant. His smile was too tight, his eyes lingering too long. When he returned with water, Shade's scanner detected a faint chemical trace, sedative. She pretended to sip, palming the glass. As he turned away, she followed, slipping into the galley. In a blur, she pinned him against the counter, her garrote at his throat. "Who's in the cockpit?" she hissed. His eyes widened, but he spat defiance. 9 seconds later, he was unconscious, her strike precise. A passenger, catching the tail end of the scuffle, froze. Shade's glare silenced him. "You saw nothing," she whispered, and he nodded, trembling. She dragged the attendant into a storage closet, securing him with zip ties. His badge gave her access to the crew's tablet, revealing an encrypted message. "Package secure. ETA 90 minutes. Package." Her mind flashed to the cargo hold. Was this about passengers or something worse? She needed the cockpit, but first, the cargo. Slipping through a service hatch, she descended into the plane's belly. The hold was frigid. Crates stacked high. Her scanner pinged, a biohazard signature, faint but unmistakable. Her stomach dropped. Weapons? Pathogens? She couldn't risk opening the crate. But she tagged it with a second tracker. If this plane landed, someone would trace it. Climbing back to the cabin, she caught a glimpse of row 12's man, now near the cockpit door, whispering to another attendant. They were coordinating. Shade's time was running out. She needed to neutralize the impostor before the plane reached that island, or before the package was activated. Shade's breath was steady, but her mind was a battlefield. The biohazard in the cargo hold upped the stakes. This wasn't just a hijacking, it was a potential catastrophe. She needed to confirm the impostor's identity and stop the plane from reaching that island. The avionics bay had given her the destination. Now she needed the why. Slipping back into the cabin, she used the unconscious attendant's badge to access a crew-only maintenance panel near the rear. Inside, a secondary navigation system blinked, its data stream tampered with. Shade's micro-device interfaced, pulling locks. The flight's course had been altered mid-air, but the override came from within the cockpit. The impostor wasn't working alone, he had tech support. Likely off-plane. Her scanner traced the signal to a satellite relay, encrypted beyond her current tools. She'd need to hit the cockpit directly. Moving silently, Shade approached the galley again, where a new attendant was prepping meals. She palmed a fake fingerprint film, pressing it against the crew's biometric lock. The door to the avionics closet clicked open. Inside, she accessed the plane's old security feed, a system rarely checked mid-flight. Grainy footage flickered, Captain Ellis at the gate. Then a man with a scar under his chin taking his place in the crew lounge. Shade's heart raced. She knew that Scar Frankfurt, 6 years ago, the man who'd slipped her net. A ghost tied to a biotech syndicate. He was the impostor, and he was flying this plane. The footage cut off, but it was enough. She had her target. Shade's next move was delicate. She needed to alert her contacts without tipping off the impostor's allies. Using a modified in-flight phone, she rigged an antenna from the service cart's wiring, boosting its range. She sent a coded signal. AB, switch 777. Only a covert station near Bermuda could decrypt it. A long shot, but her only shot. The message was a beacon, signaling a pilot swap. If it reached the right ears, backup might scramble. If not, she was alone. As she dismantled the antenna, the man from row 12 appeared in the galley, his hand on a concealed weapon. Shade's reflexes kicked in. She disarmed him with a strike to the wrist, slamming him into the counter. "Who's the package?" she demanded. He smirked, blood trickling from his lip. "You're too late." A chill ran through her. The biohazard crate, was it already armed? Shade bound him, stashing him with the first attendant. The cabin was stirring now, passengers sensing something off. She couldn't wait. The cockpit was her only path. She slipped a signal jammer into her sleeve, its pulse strong enough to disrupt the plane's radar briefly. If she could lock the impostor out of his systems, she'd have leverage. But the man's words echoed, too late. Was the package a weapon, a ransom, or something worse? Shade's mind flashed to the island, its airstrip a black site for experiments no government claimed. She had to act now, or 300 lives, and countless more, were forfeit. The cabin's hum couldn't mask the storm brewing inside Shade. The biohazard crate and the scar-faced imposter pointed to a biotech plot, one she'd failed to stop in Frankfurt. Now, it was airborne. And she was the only firewall. She moved toward the cockpit, her steps cloaked in the routine of a restless passenger. The man from row 12 was secured, but his warning too late gnawed at her. She needed to neutralize the impostor before the plane crossed into restricted airspace. A female attendant approached, offering coffee. Shade's scanner pinged, another sedative. She declined with a smile, palming a tranquilizer dart from her cuff. As the attendant turned, Shade struck, catching her before she hit the floor, dragging her into the galley. Shade secured her with the others. 3 down, but the impostor's network was tightening. A passenger, an older woman, caught Shade's eye as she re-entered the cabin. Her stare lingered, curious. But Shade's glare sent her back to her book. The cockpit door loomed ahead, its biometric like a fortress. Shade applied another fake fingerprint, her pulse steady. The lock clicked. But an alarm buzzed softly, someone was monitoring. She slipped inside, sealing the door. The co-pilot spun, startled, but the imposter captain didn't flinch. His scar gleamed under the cockpit lights. "You're persistent," he said, voice smooth. Shade's jammer activated, cutting their comms. "Who's the package?" she demanded, her garrote glinting. He laughed, unbuckling his seatbelt. "You think you can stop it?" The fight was brutal, confined. He lunged, a knife flashing from his sleeve. Shade parried, her training outpacing his bulk. She slammed him into the console. Sparks flying as the plane lurched. The co-pilot froze, hands trembling. "Help me, or we're all dead," Shade snapped. He hesitated, then restrained the impostor's legs. Shade locked the captain's wrists, her garrote biting into his skin. "The island. Talk." He spat blood, defiant. "You'll never crack the code." Code? Her mind raced, the biohazard crate. Was it programmed? She accessed the cockpit's auxiliary panel, pulling flight data. The plane was 40 minutes from the island, its airstrip a private fortress. The crate's signal was active, pulsing to an off-site server. She couldn't disarm it from here. Shade's signal from the antenna had to have reached Bermuda. If not, she'd need a new plan. She forced the impostor into the co-pilot's seat, binding him. The real co-pilot, shaken, confirmed the override code was locked to the impostor's biometrics. Shade pressed her blade to his throat. "Unlock it, or I carve that scar deeper." He sneered but complied, his fingerprint resetting the navigation. Shade punched in new coordinates, a U.S. military base 200 miles east. The plane banked, responding, but the impostor's laugh chilled her. "The package doesn't need the plane," he said. "It's already live." Shade's blood ran cold. The crate wasn't just a weapon, it was autonomous. She had minutes, not hours, to stop it. Shade's heart pounded, but her hands were steady. The impostor's words, "already live," echoed like a death knell. The biohazard crate was no longer just a threat, it was a ticking bomb. She secured the impostor tighter, his scar a stark reminder of Frankfurt's failure. 6 years ago, he'd slipped her grasp, leaving her team in ashes. Now, he was here, flying 300 souls into oblivion. She needed answers. Forcing the co-pilot to monitor the autopilot, she accessed the cockpit's old security feed again. A hidden frame showed the impostor at the gate, his scar concealed by makeup. He'd swapped with Ellis in a crew lounge, a syringe glinting in his hand. Ellis was likely dead before takeoff. The operation was seamless, planned months in advance. This wasn't a lone wolf, it was a syndicate. Shade's mind raced. The crate's signal was still active, its pulse stronger now. She needed to isolate it. Using the cockpit's diagnostic panel, she traced its frequency to a satellite uplink. The crate wasn't just autonomous, it was remotely controlled. Someone off-plane was steering this disaster. She tried jamming the signal, but the encryption was military-grade. Her only hope was the Bermuda station. Had her AB switch 777 message landed? She checked her micro-device. No response. Tom was bleeding out. The impostor smirked, sensing her frustration. "You're chasing ghosts," he said. "The island's just the beginning." Her blade pressed harder. "What's the payload?" He chuckled, blood staining his teeth. "Something the world's not ready for." She couldn't wait for Bermuda. Slipping back to the avionics bay, she bypassed the crate's signal with a manual override, rerouting its pulse to a dummy frequency. It bought time, but not much. The crate's internal timer was still active. Its biohazard payload, likely a pathogen, set to deploy on landing. She needed to ground the plane now. Returning to the cockpit, she forced the co-pilot to accelerate toward the U.S. base. The impostor's allies were still out there, Row 12's man, maybe others. She locked the cockpit door, her jammer on full. A faint beep from her sleeve. Bermuda had replied. Ellis never boarded. Syndicate confirmed. Her stomach dropped. The swap wasn't mid-flight. It was pre-planned, embedded in the airline system. The Syndicate's reach was deeper than she'd feared. Shade's next move was desperate. She hacked the plane's oxygen system, rigging a temporary lockdown. If the impostor's allies tried to breach the cockpit, they'd black out. The co-pilot, now cooperative, relayed her orders to air traffic control, claiming mechanical failure. The base cleared them for emergency landing. But the impostor's laugh cut through. "You think landing stops it? The crate's coded to you." Shade froze. Coded to her? Was she the target? Her mind flashed to Frankfurt. Had the Syndicate known she'd be on this flight? The crate's signal spiked, its timer accelerating. She had 20 minutes. She needed to disarm at midair, or the base, and everyone on it, would be ground zero. Shade's pulse thundered, but her focus was razor-sharp. The impostor's claim that the crate was coded to her felt like a trap, but she couldn't dismiss it. The Syndicate's reach, its precision, suggested they'd baited her onto this flight. Frankfurt wasn't just a failure, it was a marker. They'd been watching her since. The crate's biohazard signal pulsed faster, its timer now at 18 minutes. She needed to act. But the cockpit was her only stronghold. The co-pilot, pale but steady, kept the plane on course for the U.S. base. Shade's micro-device hummed. Bermuda station had sent a second message. Syndicate ID, Helix. Biotech weapon. Disarm code required. Helix. The name burned in her memory, a shadow corporation tied to black market pathogens. She needed that code. Shade turned to the impostor, his scar stark under the cockpit's glow. "The code," she said, her blade at his throat. He grinned, defiant. "You're already infected." Her blood chilled. But she didn't flinch. Bluff or not, she'd break him. She activated the oxygen lockdown, cutting his air. His smirk faded as he gasped. "For digits," he choked. 9-3-7-1. She punched it into the crate's relay via the avionics panel. The signal flickered, then stabilized. Wrong code. He'd lied. Fury surged, but she reined it in. The crate was still live. Its payload primed. She needed another way. Slipping back to the cargo hold, she used her scanner to isolate the crate's wiring. Its casing was tamper-proof, but a side panel yielded to her tools. Inside, a digital timer ticked, 12 minutes. The panel revealed a manual override, but it required a biometric scan, likely the impostor's. Dragging him to the hold was too risky. Passengers were restless, and the syndicate's allies could strike. Instead, she harvested his fingerprint from the cockpit controls, using a gel film to replicate it. Back in the hold, she applied the print. The timer froze at 10 minutes. Success, but temporary. The crate's signal was still broadcasting, likely to Helix's servers. She needed to sever it. Rigging a second antenna from the plane's wiring, she boosted her AB switch 777 signal, embedding a virus to scramble Helix's uplink. If it worked, their control would collapse. If not, the crate would detonate on landing. Her device pinged. Bermuda confirmed the virus was live. Helix's signal weakened, but the crate's timer resumed, now at 8 minutes. Shade raced back to the cockpit. The impostor was conscious, smirking. "You're out of moves," he said. She ignored him, forcing the co-pilot to dive toward the base. Air traffic control screamed warnings, but she jammed their comms. Buying silence. The plane shuddered, 5 minutes from landing. The crate's signal spiked again. Helix was fighting back. Shade's virus was slowing, outmatched. She had one card left. A hard reset of the plane's systems, risking a crash, but potentially killing the crate's uplink. She hesitated, then punched the override. The cockpit went dark, then rebooted. The crate's signal flatlined. Had she done it? The base's runway loomed. Time would tell. The plane's descent was a controlled plummet, the U.S. base's runway a faint strip in the dawn light. Shade's system reset had silenced the crate's signal, but her gut told her Helix wasn't done. The impostor's claim that the crate was coded to her lingered like poison. Was she the target? Or a pawn in a larger play? The cockpit was tense, the co-pilot's hands wide on the controls. Shade's micro-device buzzed, Bermuda's final message. Helix op pre-planned. Ellis targeted months ago. You're the variable. Her jaw tightened. The syndicate had orchestrated everything. The swap, the flight, the crate. They'd known she'd board, known she'd fight. This wasn't a hijacking, it was a test. The impostor, bound but alert, watched her. You're their obsession, he said, voice low. The one who got away. Frankfurt flashed in her mind, her team's blood, the scar-faced man vanishing. Helix had marked her then, and now they'd lured her here. The crate wasn't just a weapon, it was bait. She checked the avionics. The timer was frozen, but the biohazard's casing was warming. A failsafe. Helix's servers were offline, but the crate had a backup, self-contained, unstoppable without the real code. She needed the impostor's truth. She slammed him against the console. The real code. Now, his eyes gleamed. You're already in their web. Shade's scanner pinged. A second signal, buried in the plane's systems. Not the crate, something else. She traced it to the co-pilot's headset. He was Helix's mole, feeding data all along. She ripped the headset off, crushing it. His face crumpled. They'll kill my family, he whispered. Shade's blade hovered. Help me, or you're dead now. He nodded, typing a sequence into the avionics. The crate's timer blinked, 9-8-2-4. It stopped at 4 minutes. The real code. The biohazard powered down, its casing cooling. But the second signal persisted, linked to the island. Helix was still watching. The plane touched down, tires screaming. Shade locked the cockpit, forcing an evacuation. Passengers scrambled, unaware of the war she'd fought. She dragged the impostor and co-pilot to a service hatch, slipping into the plane's underbelly. The base's security swarmed, but she was a ghost, her exit untraceable. Outside, she activated her final tracker, pinging the crate's location to Bermuda. Helix's island was exposed. But their reach wasn't broken. The impostor's words haunted her, their obsession. Was she the key to their plan, or a loose end? She vanished into the base's shadows. Her micro-device buzzing with a new alert. Helix uplink reactivated. Target. You. The game wasn't over. It was escalating. Shade melted into the base's perimeter, her silhouette swallowed by the pre-dawn haze. The plane was secure, the crate disarmed, but Helix's final signal, target, you, burned in her mind. The syndicate hadn't just planned the flight. They'd engineered her presence. She was their endgame. The impostor and co-pilot were in custody, but they were pawns. The real player was on that island. A biotech tycoon whose name surfaced in her Frankfurt files, Victor Kane. His private airstrip, his pathogen labs, his obsession with power. Shade's microdevice held one last tool, a satellite hack, capable of exposing Kane's servers. She needed to strike before Helix regrouped. Slipping into a maintenance shed, she rigged a terminal, her device interfacing with a military satellite. The island's coordinates locked in, its defenses visible, encrypted firewalls, drone patrols. Kane's operation was a fortress, but every fortress had a flaw. She traced the plane's second signal, Helix's backup, to a server beneath the island. It was still active, relaying data about her, biometrics, movements, even her Frankfurt op. They'd been tracking her for years. Her blood ran cold. The crate wasn't the weapon. She was. Helix wanted her skills, her defiance, for their endgame, a global biotech coup. Shade's hack breached the server's outer layer, pulling fragments of Kane's plan. The crate's pathogen was a prototype, designed to target specific DNA. Hers, if activated. It would have turned her into a carrier, spreading a tailored virus. Kane's voice, intercepted in the data, chilled her. She's the perfect vessel. Fury surged. She uploaded a virus to the server, mirroring her plain tactic. It scrambled Helix's tracking, buying her hours. But Kane's drones were mobilizing, likely alerted by the breach. She needed to vanish, but not before leaving a mark. She embedded a beacon in the server, pinging Kane's location to every covert agency she trusted. Let him face the wolves. Back in the open, Shade ditched her gear, blending into the base's chaos. Her micro-device pinged. Bermuda confirmed the beacon. Kane's island was now a target, but Helix's network was vast. The impostor's scar, the co-pilot's betrayal. Kane's voice. They were threads in a web she'd only begun to unravel. She slipped onto a supply truck, her face obscured. The driver, unaware, carried her off base. Her mind churned. Helix had played her, but she'd flipped their board. Kane wanted her as a weapon. Instead, she'd become his hunter. The truck rumbled into the night, her next move forming. She'd find Kane, dismantle Helix, and burn their empire to ash. The supply truck's engine growled as Shade crouched in its cargo bed, the base's lights fading behind her. Helix's server was crippled. Kane's island exposed, but she wasn't safe. Her micro-device buzzed with a faint alert. Helix's drones had scanned the base, hunting her. She was their obsession, their perfect vessel. And they wouldn't stop. The truck hit a checkpoint, and Shade slipped out, merging with the dawn's shadows. Her face, unrecorded by any camera, was her shield. The plane's passengers were safe. The crate neutralized, but Kane's plan was still alive. She needed to disappear, regroup, and strike Helix's heart. Her next target, Kane himself. Shade navigated the port town near the base. Her movements fluid, untraceable. A burner phone stashed in her cuff, connected to a dead-drop network. She sent a coded message to her only ally, a handler known as Cypher Helix Exposed. Kane's Island. Need extraction. The reply was instant. 48 hours. Lie low. She ditched the phone, her tracks erased. A diner's neon glow beckoned. Inside, she ordered coffee, her eyes scanning for tails. A man in a corner booth, too still, pinged her radar. Helix? She palmed her garrote, but he left without a glance. Paranoia was her ally, but it could betray her. Her mind replayed the flight, the imposter's scar, the co-pilot's betrayal, the crate's DNA lock. Helix had tailored the pathogen for her, banking on her boarding. Frankfurt wasn't a failure, it was their first move. They'd sacrificed her team to break her, to make her their weapon. Now, they'd miscalculated. She wasn't broken, she was lethal. Slipping into the diner's restroom, she dyed her hair, swapping her blazer for a hoodie from a hidden cache. Her reflection was a stranger's, perfect. She left, blending into the morning crowd. A fishing boat at the docks was her exit. The captain, paid in cash, asked no questions. As the boat cut through the waves, Shade's device pinged. Cypher's extraction was set, a chopper off the coast. The island loomed in her mind, Kane's fortress a puzzle she'd crack. Her virus had slowed Helix, but their network was global. The flight was a skirmish. The war was coming. She stashed her gear, keeping only her blade and micro-device. The boat docked at a remote cove, and she vanished into the jungle, her rendezvous hours away. A faint hum overhead, drones. Helix was close. She activated her jammer, cloaking her signal. The chopper's silhouette appeared, Cypher's team ready. As she boarded, a final alert flashed, Kane's broadcasting. He knows you're alive. Shade's lips curved. Good. Let him fear her. The chopper's blades thrummed as Shade strapped in, the jungle shrinking below. Cypher's team, stone-faced operatives, handed her a secure tablet. Kane's broadcast played, a grainy feed from his island. His face obscured, but his voice unmistakable. The vessel escaped, but the board is set, he said, chuckling. She's exactly where we need her. The screen cut to static, but the words seared into Shade's mind. Helix hadn't lost. They'd planned her survival. The flight, the crate, the impostor, all pieces in Kane's chess game. She was their queen, not their prey. Her hands clenched. She'd burned their board to ash. Cypher's briefing was curt. Kane's island was a biotech hub, guarded by mercenaries and AI drones. The crate's pathogen was one of dozens, each tied to Helix's global network. Shade's DNA was their key, her survival their catalyst. They want you to come, Cypher said. It's a trap. Shade nodded, her mind already mapping the island's weaknesses. The flight had exposed Helix's precision, but also their arrogance. They'd underestimated her will. She opened the tablet's intel. Schematics of Kane's lab, stolen by a defector. A sublevel, shielded from scans, held Helix's core servers. Destroy them, and their network would collapse. The chopper banked toward a carrier group. Her staging ground. Shade's micro-device synced with Cypher's satlink, pulling real-time drone feeds. Kane's island was mobilizing, his broadcast a taunt to lure her. She saw through it. Helix needed her alive, her DNA their final piece. The flight wasn't a failure, it was their opening move, designed to push her toward the island. She'd play their game, but on her terms. Cypher handed her a prototype EMP grenade, capable of frying Kane's drones. She pocketed it, her plan forming. Infiltrate, sabotage, vanish. Kane's laugh echoed in her mind, but she'd silence it. As the carrier loomed, Shade reviewed the flight's clues. The impostor's scar, the co-pilot's fear, the crate's code, they all pointed to Kane's obsession with control. He'd orchestrated Frankfurt. The flight, her survival. But why her? Her DNA wasn't unique, unless Helix had altered it. A memory surfaced, a safehouse breach, a needle in her arm. Had they tagged her then? The tablet's intel confirmed it. Helix's pathogen needed a carrier, a survivor of their early tests. She was their proof of concept. Rage flared, but she channeled it. Kane's island was her endgame, not his. The chopper landed, and Shade stepped onto the carrier, her silhouette a ghost against the deck. Cypher's team armed her. Silenced pistol, EMP grenade, micro-explosives. She'd hit the island at dusk, when Kane's drones recalibrated. The flight had been her crucible, forging her into Helix's nightmare. Kane's laugh was his mistake. He'd revealed his confidence. She'd use it, slipping through his defenses like a blade. As she boarded the infiltration craft, his words replayed, exactly where we need her. She smiled coldly. He'd see her soon. The sea stretched endless beneath the infiltration craft, but Shade's focus was singular. Kane's island, Helix's heart. The flight had taught her a brutal truth, sometimes. The mission isn't about reaching a destination, it's about stopping a catastrophe. She boarded as a hunter, tracking a ghost from Frankfurt, but emerged as a shield, saving 300 lives and exposing a syndicate's rot. Helix had crafted her as their weapon, but she'd rewritten their script. The lesson was clear. True strength lies in defying the plans others carve for you. Shade's survival, her defiance, turned Kane's trap into her battlefield. Every choice, hacking the crate, grounding the plane, vanishing, was a rejection of his control. The world didn't need heroes. It needed ghosts like her, unseen but unstoppable. Her story wasn't over. Kane's laugh, his network, his island, they were challenges, not endings. Helix's reach was vast, but so was her resolve. The flight was a spark. The war was coming. She'd dismantle their empire, piece by piece, until Kane's shadow was ash. This wasn't just her fight. It was a call to others. Trust your instincts. Question the script. Strike when the powerful think you're broken. The world's silent wars need warriors who move in the dark. Follow Shade's mission in Silent Missions. Subscribe to uncover her next strike, where she'll face Kane's fortress and Helix's secrets. Her story has no ending, only entries, each a step toward justice. Join the fight. The shadows are waiting.